Welcome to Sunday League Virtual Season 2, Round 7, here for the Turkish Grand Prix. Cracking race last time out. Rito just about holding on to win with only 2 tokens spent. Here we're expecting an equally good race. It was a firecracker last time around in Hungary. Really good race indeed. We're expecting something pretty similar, so let's have a little look. It was Rito who won the race, just like he did last week. Goose, an X610, now retired on the podium. Interestingly enough, Rito also taking the fastest lap. So, can anyone stop the Rito dominance? Well, we'll find out. Has anyone upgraded their car to the point where they'll be able to? This week, not really. KRT and BFX both get speed upgrades. FVR, WTEC and BAR were never allowed the chance at an upgrade. They rushed on an upgrade last week and failed, meaning that they ran the risk and now have the consequence of their mechanics being overworked, not willing to put an upgrade on the car this time around, so they just get another failure. As for the other teams, VLA and THX failed speed upgrades, as did PMP, and SFR and SPM both failed their grip upgrade. Coming towards the end of the qualifying session here, let's see how it all shakes up on the grid for the Turkish Grand Prix. Jake Brad takes pole position by a third of a second from Vlado204, who starts on the front row. Bluebell Boy starting in third for BBB Force X. Kubo is starting on the second row with Rito, race winner last time out, right behind him. Goose starts 6th with Hanandi in 7th. Spuda takes 8th on the grid. Anti in 9th and Hetmenica in 10th. G4 will be starting in 11th place. Ikolowski in 12th. Eurus 13th. Levioso 14th. Sobel in 15th. Vlad 01 in 16th. Grandi in 17th. Jaruni, then Pit Crew, then Andres as the rest of your grid. Let's have a look at the token usage, and very similarly to Baku, very similarly indeed, it's a very low spend this week. Only 12 total tokens spent, 5 drivers spending them. They are Levioso spending 1 token, starting in 14th. You're spending more tokens than 15 other drivers and you're starting 14th. Jesus Christ. Kubo spending 2 tokens, starting in 4th. Goose spending 3 tokens, only starting in 6th. Spuda spending 2 tokens, only starting in 8th. Jake spending 4 tokens on pole position. Those are the only drivers spending tokens today. Notable non-token spenders, Bluebell and Vlad starting 2nd and 3rd on the grid. Rito starting 5th. Nandi 7th. Anti and Menica also qualifying inside the top 10, spending 0 tokens. Time to get underway here for the Turkish Grand Prix. Really interesting to see that finally the car upgrades really starting to outweigh the token spend, but we'll have a look at how it shakes up when it comes to the race. Starting on the grid here, 5 lights ahead of them, we're underway for the Turkish Grand Prix. Jake Brad leads them away from pole. Vlad immediately goes around the outside, up the inside into turn 2, takes the lead off him. He's already gapped him, really got a good lead out in front. Bluebell and Kubo going side by side in the background. Bluebell has to back out of that one. Goose and Spuda and Rito and Goose getting through on Spuda. Hanandi and Ikolowski battling in the background as well. Hanandi to the inside at Spuda at the final corner, final hairpin. Anti following this train in the background. Can he get Spuda? He can. He gets the better drag out of the corner on his softs, but they go 3 wide into turn 2. Ikolowski, the loser of that Eurus, gets through ahead of him. Jake Brad's fallen back down into 4th place. Goose up into 3rd place, spending 3 tokens, remember. Bluebell and Rito, teammates, battling it out here. Kubo going for the lead of the race, spending 2 tokens today. Can he get his 2nd race win of the season? Remember, he got one in Monaco. Vlad does a very clever switchback that he did on lap 1 to take the lead. He's taken the lead back on lap 3 using the same manoeuvre, but it looks like a 4-way party for the lead. Goose up the inside of Kubo. Kubo to the outside, gets the position back immediately on his softs, takes a healthy amount of runoff, goes to the outside of Vlad. Vlad can't fight that. Can Jake make it a double overtake for them? Yes, he can. Just utilises the runoff on the exit there. Goose looking to make a move as well, goes in. Can Vlad pull him back? Vlad temporarily had dropped from 1st to 4th in the space of half a lap there, but looks to be restoring it on Goose. Bluebell and Rito, the BBB Force X, is spending 0 tokens this weekend, running in 5th and 6th, currently on track for 18 World Championship points. Can anyone stop them? Well, we'll have to find out. Vlad to the outside of Jake, wheel to wheel, they go into the final corner. That loses them time to Goose, but Goose doesn't get the best exit. They go 3 wide, coming into turn 1. Who gets the better? Who here? Vlad just going through the middle. Managed to get the best line through. Jake and Goose have to slow down. Goose right back, hot on Vlad's heels though. Looking at a potential overtake. Goose and Jake use a bit of boost. Goose gets through with it. Jake has to just stay in the background, but gets a very good exit out through that corner and down into the hairpin they come. Jake behind Goose in 3rd and 4th place. Side by side they go once more. Jake to the outside, very, very wide line there. Didn't look to ever be getting that overtake done. Kubo still out in the lead. 3-way fight for 2nd. Bluebell, then Rito behind them. Nandi and Spuda, Urist and Ikoloski, the rest of the top 10. Levioso using a token, languishing down in 12th. So, in the race similar to this one, you can hear the cars going by my window. In the commentary box here, Levioso as he gets the little switcheroo on Anti. Sobel looking for a move down the inside. That PMP not quite the shitbox it once was. You saw in the previous race, very similar to this, Jake Brad spending just 1 token. I believe he got 5th place in that race. It's very good value for that single token spent. As you see Eurus go down the inside on Ikoloski. Looks like Rito and Bluebell got into a bit of a scrap. That's the last thing they're going to want to have, but Rito should be letting his teammate through here. He's disobeying team orders, and Bluebell piles into the pit lane in disgust anyways, so he just screws up that corner. Speaking of, Jake looks to have done the same thing as Goose and Vlad going side by side up here for P2. Can Goose stick it to the outside? He can't quite get the inside through that long sweeping turn 8, and they both have to just settle for the positions they're in at the moment. Kubo running away out in the lead on his soft compound tyres. Pits now. We'll see all the medium runners who are fighting over seconds come through. They've not lost too much time on him, but it's possible that through the overcut they'll get on the mediums and the shortened time on further stints. They could still be in contention for this. Rito looking to join in on that, but he is on the hards, remember. So he's also yet to stop Kubo, who's pitted down into 5th place, and Bluebell pitted down into 11th outside the top 10. But yeah, it's really odd to see a driver spending a token in a race where 15 drivers aren't, and just not being able to make anything of it. Vlad going very, very slowly there. Must have gotten a really poor exit. This is the fight for P3, I believe. Kubo joined back in as well. He's already taken a stop. This is an important fight. Looks like Vlad made a big mistake. Goose just couldn't get through on him. Goose goes wide as he gets the move done on Vlad. Cocks up the exit. Kubo and Rito, the Polish boys, coming through to take the positions. Goose and Vlad looking to challenge back at Rito. Got a slightly bad exit, but he won't be punished for it, so they both pile into the pits. Spuda already up from, I believe it was 8th or 9th on the grid, into 4th place. So good for him, but he's still yet to stop Hernandi and Bluebell, who is one of our stoppers so far, as is Vlad and Goose. Ikoloski and Menica also having made their stop, as Ikoloski goes to the inside on G4 here. He has superior tyre grip, so can he go all the way around the outside at turn 8? He can't, but he gets a much better exit down the straight. Brakes early. Oh, G4 brakes even earlier and just tucks up the inside. Really nice manoeuvre there. Urist and Menica fighting in the background as well. 3-way battle actually. Urist to the outside of Ikoloski coming to turn 1. He does get the move done before the braking zone. Just once again too hot on the brakes, goes deep, locked up a little bit, and that has allowed EK to get back through. Challenge G4 is still ahead, still on his old tyres, with Urist and Het and EK all having pitted. He's doing a very good job at holding them up. Still just has to concede it as he goes into that runoff area, which won't give you nearly as much grip as the actual racing tarmac. And G4 piles into the pit lane, content with his holding up skills. Spuda out of the pits now, right into the thick of it. Urist by his side at the moment. Pit crew wide. Oh my god, we've got a 4-car scrap. EK to the inside, Spuda to the outside, Urist in the middle. Still they go through. Urist tucks in behind Spuda, gets the better exit, pulls alongside, coming into the sharp corner, gets the move done using the runoff. EK looking to do the same thing, coming into the final hairpin. Can he try and get the move? He is already dragged past him on straight. Levioso in the background looking to pick up any scraps from this fighting. We'll turn our attention back to the top 5 for the moment. Looks like Bluebell and Goose fighting over position here. Bluebell on the mediums, Goose on the hards. Goose should be licking his lips and looking at a potential P2 here, but the BBB Force X's, even with their tokenless races, are unstoppable. Rito up in second place, 5 seconds adrift from Kubo. Rito still yet to stop, still 15 laps on his hards that he started the race on. Bizarre strategy there, really bizarre. That's far too long to be taking those tyres, because you'll see the drivers. Jake's on pretty new hards, so he's essentially got a pit stop on him. Kubo does have an actual pit stop on him. He could pit now, despite his continued life on the mediums. It will take him a few laps still. Could pit now and still come out ahead. That is the extent to which Jesus Christ. Right. Sorry, Bluebell, Hernandi and Rito, who's now come out of the pit lane, and he's still just a little bit behind his teammate. Bluebell has not had a good last stint or so. He'll be pitting in the next few laps and will be out of contention for at least the top 8 or 9 cars, because Levioso running back there is really not that far behind him, only a couple of seconds separating the front and the back of that pack. Rito to the outside of Smuda at turn 2. Smuda not going to give this one up. He is on those pretty fresh softs, not entirely, but not starting to yellow out just yet. 5-car train we've got coming down through the straight. Rito pretty slow on those hards. Levioso used that chance to just pick him off. Rito falls down to 9th after the pit stop. The hards really just not working out for him at the beginning of the stint, but he's going on a minimising pit stop strategy. You can't really blame him for that. They all come up to lap Vlado 1, the first car to be lapped. Hernandi uses the back marker to make a brilliant move around the outside, especially utilising the runoff on Bluebell, but he does also have fresher, softer tyres. Spuda gets past Vlad as well. It's a really enjoyable scrap, but it looks like we've got a fight going on for the race lead. Kubo and Jake. Kubo are presumably still out on those mediums, pretty badly worn. Jake looking very good for a potential race win here. Just doing well at the moment, going through, down straight through the kinked corner onto the right hand side, and just behind Kubo as he exits the final corner. A little bit further back, Vlad 02 in 3rd place, and then we've got Goose in 4th, Rito in 5th at the moment. Hernandi and Spuda battling over 6th, and 7th Levioso in 8th, Ikolowski 9th, and Eurus into the pit lane from 10th. Bluebell having pitted down into 11th place. That'll be in the top 10 as Eurus comes in. So Bluebell looking a potentially good finish here, but his more experienced, in terms of successes at least, teammate Rito, who won here last year, looking at a better result at the moment. We're following these two drivers as they look to be not only clearly out in the lead of the Constructors' Championship, but both fighting each other for the drivers as well. Hernandi just behind his teammate Vlad 02, who comes out of the pit lane. Hernandi makes a bad mistake there. Ikolowski gets through for 6th. In terms of the fight for the lead, Kubo now in. Jake will still have a bit of time left on those hards, but Kubo on the softs now. This is the tyre where he can really go for that undercut, while Jake will still be dragging out those hards for a good few laps more. Kubo can hopefully just find some pace and really gun it. Goose ahead of Kubo at the moment. We'll wait until this battle is done before I do a little flick up of the token usage again. Can Kubo get a switch back here? No, he can't. He gets a good exit though. Pulls alongside, doesn't even need to use the boost, and then just uses that little bit of runoff. Put himself ahead in terms of the token usage. A little reminder, Kubo using 2, Goose using 3, Jake using 4. Our 3 biggest contenders for the podium at the moment. Spuda as well using 2, and Lev using 1. Watch out for them as well, but it looks like, particularly with the car development how it is, as we see the PMPs down in 17th and 18th, proving my point, it looks like they'll be struggling to get big points compared to those with really good machinery, such as Rito, such as Vlad in the KRT car, which thanks to its recent speed upgrade has been doing really well so far this race. Levioso down in 8th place only. Any close battles? I'll have a little look at Pit Crew versus Sober versus Het Medica if we can. Here they are, all in the background, getting in the way of the leaders. This is your race day reminder. Lap cars do not have any obligation to get out of the way. They can fight all they want, but it probably won't save them that much time in the long run. Goose laps them. Rito not far behind Goose. Goose peels into the pit lane. Rito stuck next to Pit Crew there. Doesn't get the optimal exit through the final corner, but he is unleashed from behind Goose. He just needs to clear the back markers, gets to the outside of Andries running down in 15th place. Hetmeneka in 14th is the next car up to be lapped, and then Rito has the long old gap ahead to Kubo. Let's check in on the tyre strategy. Jake still out on those hards. Anti giving him a bit of trouble at the first corner. Kubo, having pitted when being behind Jake, has already taken that stop, taken that big gap, and taken the softs to close it down. He's down to just 2.4 seconds and ever shrinking as Jake finds a little bit of trouble with back markers. He should be in this lap, at which point Kubo will inherit the race lead as he does come in. Kubo still needs to clear Anti, running in 12th, but we'll see how Jake comes out of the pit lane. Rito comes through the final chicanes. Will Jake be out ahead? It's a slow pit exit, but he does have a sizable gap. Shouldn't be in any danger from Rito in terms of the battle for the win. Goose still focusing on that as well. Much fresher tyres than Rito, so we can be expecting an overtake pretty soon. This is the closest gap within the top 6. As Goose closes down, gets a much better exit, closes down the straight to the outside of the final corner. Rito moves across to take the racing line, block him off. He won't give Goose too much trouble. Rito into the pits. He'll lose position to Vlad, who's running a slightly alternate strategy. Looks to be about a third of the way through his hard tyre stint. Rito will come out behind Spuda, behind Bluebell, battle with Levioso, who is the car who he got stuck behind famously last time when he pitted. That's very unlucky for him because rain is on the way. Interestingly enough, will it be a fake rain like we often see in Sunday League, or a proper actual downpour? Will the clouds be coming back imminently, or will we actually get some standing water? All the drivers seem to be taking the wets, which is an interesting pick, not the inters. Vlad's like compromise on his pit entry. 01 that is, 02 was perfectly fine. Grandy has to pick his way through, Spuda through, and it looks like we will be getting some proper... No, we won't. Okay. Never mind. Let's see the final cars into the pits. Will they take the wets? They all do. So the entire field, nobody opting for an alternate strategy, everyone on the same thing. This has spared Kubo's... this has not spared really, he was doing very well already, but this has really aided Kubo's race a fair amount. It was that undercut call on softs. Remember, he was behind Jake, who was on the hard, so it was his executive decision to go in, take the softs, get a big undercut, and then Jake comes into pit. And we've got cars coming into pit on the next lap already, so Rito has pitted 3 times in 3 laps. That's very, very unlucky for the Polish driver. Kubo also into the pit lane. The track is bone dry. I see the wet tyre runners struggling as they come through the final corner. No, they just slow down and pretty take it normally. They don't get that much skid actually, do they? I think they just drop their speed massively coming through that final sector. And then that sort of helps out. Yeah, that sounds about right. Right. Battle up top. Kubo with that soft tyre undercut, playing a strategic blinder. Rain coming just in time to screw over Rito and Jake. Rito, who was running very, very nicely earlier. Sort of a bit, let's be honest, the driver who everyone wants to see fail at this point because he has such an advantage in the championship. Even though he's spending no tokens and stood in 7th place to make that 8th as Levioso goes down the inside. Fantastic move into the final corner. Good move there. Yeah, even though spending no tokens, getting 8th place is very, very nice indeed. He was on for a very good looking finish, potentially 3rd place if he could take that off Goose, if not definitely 4th ahead of Vlad. But a pit stop at the wrong time has sunk him down to 8th. He's taken the softs, which will be fast, but not very long lasting. However, they might be able to aid him in getting through on Spuda and Levioso, who will be his main targets if he can try and realistically get up to 6th place by the end of the race. Bluebell, Vlad, Goose, Jake, Kubo, the top 5 at the minute. No close battles. Oh well, Spuda closing in on Bluebell. Remember, everyone on very similar tyre life, but Spuda somehow making those mediums work despite Bluebell being on those fresh softs. So he shouldn't be catching him, but he is. So it's pretty good signs for the WTech team that maybe the car is finally starting to click with the drivers. They haven't had the best season so far, but they do have a lot of tokens left to spend. Spending 2 today with Spuda, getting a top 5 finish, despite the fact that there's such a low token spend in general, would be a really good result. 20 laps remaining here at Istanbul Park. Kubo snakes his way through the first sector with a lot of lap traffic in the way. Jake has closed that gap. Really interestingly, they're on the exact same strategy for the moment, both on the softs, both the same lap pitted in from the wets. Goose, as he loves to do, goes for a cheeky alternate strategy, goes for the hard, so he will inherit the race lead once the front two come into the pits. It's all about whether maybe some rain will come back, maybe the hards saving a pit stop will just be the strategy. He is still very much in contention. A little token reminder popping up on the right hand side of your screen. Goose using 3, Kubo using 2, Jake using 4, Lev using 1. Jake, as you can see actually in the tokens column on the left, is spending his final 4 tokens of the season, so don't expect to see any outstanding performances from him until we get to Interlagos, where all is equal. Jake still good pace, closing in. That gap is now just 1.8 seconds to Kubo. That, despite Velocity having a very good car indeed, is the advantage that 4 tokens over 2 tokens will give you. It's the raw pace, especially in clean air. No cars currently standing between Jake and Kubo. This is his time to close that gap, which once was 6 seconds, now just stands at 2.3 before they both come into pit at pretty much exactly the same time. This is his chance to really get in some good time, uninterrupted by back markers, pump in the laps, close up to the back of Kubo. Goose very close behind Jake. Very interestingly, those softs look like they're starting to go off. Will Kubo come in at the end of this lap? He doesn't, he stays out. Goose makes the move on Jake. Jake also stays out. Goose working really nicely with the hards. BAR deploy EK to try and hold Goose up a little bit. Can he go to the inside here? No, it doesn't really work. Jake has to take avoiding action as his teammate runs onto the grass. That's actually hurt them more than helped them, but it's quite a clever little strategy just to pit in your teammate who's a lap down to try and just give a little bit of trouble to the car ahead. He's not fully given up on this one. He caused Goose a little bit of problems. Jake has the potential to go back down the inside, and he piles into the pit lane with grace, as does Kubo going into that first box, with Velocity being the highest scoring team in the championship last season that is still in existence. Comedy Racing no longer being with us, but their successors, BFX, really living up to the Season 1 Constructors' Championship title that the team won. Jake, stuck behind Eurus. They've done the exact same thing at Team Velocity, but Eurus pretty nicely gets out of the way. That gap is still at 1.4 seconds, but Jake really looks to close it just at 1 second now. We'll follow this. This is essentially the fight for the net race lead, not to count Goose out from getting the win come the end of the race on his alternate strategy, but once he comes into the pit lane, he will be behind these 2 cars, despite, funnily enough, his very strong pace. Initially, got a big fat train here. This looks like you have 6 cars on all different laps fighting it out here. Hetmenica ahead of Hanandi, who's a lap up on him. Spuda 2 laps up on Hetmenica. Bluebell using this as a chance to get through on Spuda, who looked to be the head of the train for the time being, and has to drift back across, still getting swamped down by these back markers. Really poor for Spuda. He really would hope for at least a top 5 finish in a race where he's spending 2 tokens and everybody else barely spending any. Jake Brad stuck behind Andres, his former teammate, still probably a little bit salty about being dropped, but we'll see if he can beat his old BAR mates back in the Drivers' Championship and indeed the Constructors. Jake messes up the corner a little bit, but gets a helping hand from Sobel. The gap has fallen back to 1.4 seconds. Kubo put in a good couple laps. He's closing up to Goose, who's still yet to pit off those hards. Those are pretty much at the end of their life. He should be in this lap. He is. Kubo inherits the race lead. Then it's the BAR of Ekolowski, not too far back. The BAR of Jake Brad. EK not really looking like he'll be able to put up a lap fight against Kubo, who's just negotiated the back markers once more. I believe that is a triple lap on Vlado1, who, bless him, is sort of running his own race, nearly about to be lapped by Jaruni. I don't know what's gone there. God, I don't know how to explain that. Jake Brad gets through on his teammate, who moves aside diligently and allows him through to go and chase down the race leader. 2.8 seconds the gap has grown to. Remember, they're still out on those softs. It looks like Anti made a big mistake. Hetmenica unable to overtake him. If we can get a look on Kubo, gets through on both of them, and Pit Crew all the way around the outside gets those 3 cars. I think if Kubo does win, you have to credit a lot of that to his treatment of lapped cars and how quickly he's been able to cut through them like a knife through butter. Butter. Not butter lord, just butter. really just being able to slip through and keep gaining time on them and keep his advantage over Jake, despite that gap really dropping down where Jake had some good pace earlier on before the stops. He's been able to pull that back up to a safe 2.5 seconds, and that is all he's going to want to be doing. G4 comes into the pit lane. We'll focus on battles further down. Goose, a lot of drivers go very slowly through that section, I noticed, through the mid-pack. Rito, having just got ahead of Spuda, who's now down in 8th place, but he did pit onto the softs pretty recently. Bluebell will be in now. Jaruni giving Rito a bit of problems. Can Spuda go to the outside? He does get a better drag. Jaruni just about gets in the way. They're both shoved wide. Spuda especially. That's a chain reaction all caused by Jaruni. Kubo and Jake once again in on the same lap, both on the softs again. Jake believes, remember, he gets the advantage of coming in behind Kubo and being able to react to what he does. He genuinely believes that on the same strategy he will be able to beat Kubo. That gap back to just 1 second. This will be what we follow pretty much to the end of the race. Gets a good bit of slipstream down the straight, gets thrown Anti and Hetmenica. The gap just now 0.7 of a second, closing forever 0.3. Kubo held up behind pit crew. Can Jake make a move for the lead of the race? Kubo negotiates turn 1. Jake still right on his tail. Just 6 laps to go here in Turkey, and we've got a proper fight on for the race lead. Kubo having performed much better throughout most of the race, but Jake spending 2 more tokens would absolutely adore a win today in a race where so few have spent so few tokens. You'd really be appreciative of getting the maximum number of points here today for his final token spend of the season. The gap still out ahead. Goose, remember, still on the ultimate strategy. He did pick the softs just like these guys, but that big overcut has meant that he's got back through on these guys. Jake to the outside, needs to get through on Jaruni as well as Kubo, gets around both of them, and he does take the lead of the race. Got a lot of cars piling out of the pit lane now. Rito Andres coming out in the worst time for Kubo. People who he thought were his friends, well, he gets through on them anyways pretty quickly, but still a lot of time lost at turn 1. That's a second the gap back from Jake to Kubo. The only man standing in between Jake and the race win at this very moment is Goose, who on his alternate strategy is still out in first place. That doesn't look like it's going to last for very long though. Goose winds his way through turn 1. Jake gets a better exit. Into turn 3 they go. The chicanes. Jake forced wide. Can he use the runoff to get an overtake done to the inside with superior tyre grip? Can he do it? Goose back at the inside at turn 8. Fantastic defending from the Canadian driver. Just 3 and a bit laps left to go in this race. Jake really dropping back. This looked like it would be an easy win, but Kubo is back in this fight. Jake goes wide into turn 1. Big unforced error. Kubo back through for second. He makes it first. Kubo into the lead of the race. Just a lap and a half to go. Goose still in the fight, but his holding up of Jake Brad has cost them both dearly. He's still ahead of him. Jake goes through the kink corner into the final hairpin and does get through, but will have just 1 lap remaining to chase down Kubo for the win here. 4 tokens versus 2. BAR versus VLO. Which one will prevail? The gap currently a half a second. Now 0.6 as Kubo goes through, exits turn 8 for the final time into the sharp corner at the very top of the track, and it looks like from here he will just about have the gap, winds through the final chicane, and Kubo will win the Turkish Grand Prix. Fantastic race there, fantastic fight for the lead come the very end. Goose finishes a lap up from the BFX, is still fighting over 7th and 8th place. Will Rito just hold on ahead of his teammate? It looks like he might do. Spuda ahead of the 2 of them will follow this battle with Goose on his in lap, his parade lap. Rito, Bluebell, Spuda still fighting over 6th, 7th, 8th place. Who will get where? It looks like Spuda comes out triumphant over the BFXs. Kubo wins, takes the fastest lap. 2nd year running, a pole has won with fastest lap here in Turkey. Jake Brad an agonisingly close second place. It looked to all just be falling into his very hands. He got the gap on Kubo. He was right behind Goose, but Goose's valiant defending has won the race for Kubo. Goose finishes a very respectable third place, and in a very quiet race for him. Very little camera action on him, but also very, far away from any other cars. Vlado204 finishing 4th place for KRT, spending 0 tokens. They might have the best car at this point. Levioso spending 1 in 5th place. They'll be happy with that. Very, very good final stint there. He jumped both the BFXs and Spuda as well, getting up to 5th. Spuda 6th for WTech. They'll sort of take that, but not ideal, spending 2 tokens. BBB Force X, not quite as good as what they were looking to get early in the race, but with no tokens, 7th and 8th is a very solid result indeed. Ekolowski in 9th place, and Jurist will take the final point. Nandy just outside of it in 11th place. That's probably the closest we've seen somebody getting points, just 0.18 seconds off. Anti in 12th, and then Grandi 13th. So up in 14th for Phoenix Motorsports. Andres in 15th. Pit Crew 16th place for him. Hetmanica in 17th place. G4 in 18th. Jaruni in 19th, and Vlad01 will take last place today. Fantastic race here in Turkey today. I really hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next time for the Belarusian Grand Prix around the streets of Brest. But until then, bye bye.